3D audio is going to be
Sony has
changing the
had
world
a
of
bit of
video games. I'm
generation.
pretty sure Tecmo Bowl has a speed run. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 183rd episode of the Most Elite Podcast. And the reason I start the video like that is because I was just going through my channel. My dad called me and asked me when I was doing my next podcast, and I didn't really have an answer for him, as I've had a couple of topics that I wanted to talk about for some time now. But the reality of the situation is I've been working nonstop for the past 3 months on a project that has drained me of all of my drive and energy. The project is coming to a close shortly, but for the past 3 months I've been working just about 60-hour weeks every week, and as such I have not had the time nor energy to sit down and do the podcast. And I know the real grind set people out there will say, yeah, man, you still gotta do it, man. You gotta push through it and do it. And while I agree with you to an extent, there's only so much thinking like that can do for me. When I wake up every day at 5 a.m. and I clock in at 5 a.m. and I'm not clocking out until 6:30 or 7 that night. The grind set only goes so far for me. I am but a human, and I must sleep and eat. So, yeah, I haven't really been doing any sort of creative things at all. Not just my podcast. But I have some free time right now, and I've been meaning to get back and do a video, and I didn't want to just put up a quiet video. I have tons of quiet videos actually saved. One of them will most likely go over this episode, just so you can have something to look at. But I wanted to discuss really quickly today the information that's been coming out in Micosoft versus the FTC. As anybody who watches this channel knows, I've been closely following the Micosoft FTC deal because I think it's bullshit. And I think the FTC is dicking around and jerking Microsoft around. Not that I care about a super corporation that, is worth trillions or whatever, but I think that if the FTC is going to turn a blind eye to like Meta all their deals at all times until recently, then that should be applied globally. Like, there's so many big billion-dollar deals. I did an entire episode naming a few of them a while back, and I was saying that the FTC has turned a blind eye to all those billion-dollar deals. We got banks and shit buying up all the homes, pricing everybody out, but there's no antitrust going on there. Microsoft wants to buy Activision. All of a sudden, it's ruining the competitive spirit. And in my previous video, I said that I believe, and I said I'm going to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I said I believe Sony is using its considerable pull in the industry to block this deal because they simply don't want Microsoft to have the deal. And boy, oh boy, was I right. I was absolutely right. And I thought I was wrong. I wanted to be wrong at least, because boy, you would hate that a company would undercut another company like that when you both do the same thing. You bring joy to millions of people. And I know your companies, and I know you only care about money. That's fair. Corporations only care about money. They're monsters, so to speak. They hoard wealth. They're like dragons of old. And I understand that. That's a reality that I can do nothing about. As such, when your corporation's main thing, both of you, I know Sony is in electronics, makes cell phones and TVs and stuff. But if you mention Sony to the average millennial and or Gen Z, or they know them for video games, right? And Microsoft as well. Microsoft, they do home PCs. But again, the average person will be like, yeah, they do Xbox, right? Anybody who grew up in the 90s and 2000s know them for fucking Xbox. If your whole platform is bringing joy to millions, Sony's catchphrase, the best place to play, Microsoft, I think, is jump in or everyone's welcome. If that's your whole platform, then you really shouldn't undercut each other with slimy business moves to keep your dominant position in a market space. I think that is fucking scummy. And this Microsoft versus the FTC lawsuit has truly shown the lengths that these companies will go to, gaming companies will go to control the market. In my previous video, I said, yeah, Sony, they're swinging their weight around to get this deal blocked, and they are. That's the short answer of it all. If you're interested in keeping up with the case, it is being live reported on TheVerge.com. That is a news publication site that they handle electronics and entertainment and stuff like that. They have been following the case live. I myself have been following it live as well. And there's a lot to unpack about the case, so I won't go over it here because it is still ongoing. But the one thing I did want to talk about was the email. At the start of the case, Microsoft opened their hearing with an email from Sony president Jim Ryan. And in this email, he very, very clearly explains that they don't care about Call of Duty. Now, I was wrong in believing they did because, they were saying the public line was, oh, if Microsoft gets Activision, then we won't have Call of Duty. And I thought, well, I know Call of Duty makes Sony a lot of money, so that would be a considerable blow. But I was wrong. They don't even care about losing that money. Their main concern is that Microsoft simply doesn't have it. And that is crazy to say out loud because that's what it is. They do not want at all to that Microsoft wants to have it. The quote is, and here's the email from Jim Ryan, "It's not an exclusivity play at all. They're thinking bigger than that, and they have the cash to make moves like this." Jim Ryan wasn't concerned about Call of Duty because he had spoken with Activision CEO Bobby Kotick and Xbox chief Phil Spencer, and he even had reassurances from Microsoft CEO Nadella that Call of Duty was staying on PlayStation. He knew all along. In the email, Ryan says, "We have some good stuff cooking," and in that he's referencing that they purchased Bungie for $7 billion. It came to light today or yesterday that the only reason Sony even purchased Bungie was because Microsoft went to Bungie in 2019 or whatever, one of those times earlier, to make a deal for them. They wanted to buy Bungie and they wanted to buy Sega. And both of the companies, they were in talks, but ultimately it didn't come to fruition. I suppose Sony caught wind of this talk and was like, well, we should buy Bungie. They've already worked with us for years and they would trust us over an outsider like Microsoft. So they made that deal. Jim Ryan goes on to say, "I'm not complacent and I'd rather this hadn't happened, but we'll be okay. We'll be more than okay." Now that was an email from Sony president Jim Ryan to Phil Spencer and Bobby Kotick from Activision. Both they were in an email chain together. He openly admits that he knows Call of Duty is staying on PlayStation and he wishes that the deal hadn't happened, but we'll be fine. Now the "we'll be fine" is, in my eyes, insidious because he was saying we'll be fine because he knew the second he was done talking to those guys, he was going to call up everybody he could call up. Friends at the FTC, friends of the UK Regulatory Commission who blocked the deal recently over cloud, in quotes. He was going to call everybody he knew to make this deal not happen. And it got all the way to the court. It did everything. It's in court now. And that's really scummy. So Microsoft in their opening statement says Sony has known all along we'll stand by our promise, and that PlayStation was lobbying against our deal to protect its dominant position in the market. And they're right. They've done nothing but lobby all of these people to make Microsoft this big bad guy when all along they've been grinning. They've been weeping with their public face and grinning with the private. They've been laughing behind their backs because they knew. It's unacceptable, man. It's unacceptable. Oh no. I thought I had free time, but apparently I don't. I'm actually at work right now. I had a little downtime. I was getting some breakfast basically, and I was like, oh, I'll squeeze 10 minutes in. It won't hurt anybody. But it looks like I have something to do. Give me 1 second, guys. All right, sorry about that. It may have just been a moment for you, but it was quite a while for me, and as such, I can't remember where I left off. I think I was saying how it's unacceptable that they knew all along that Microsoft would honor Call of Duty and honor other things, and the hearing is so full of information. It came to light that Microsoft wanted to buy Zigna to bolster their mobile thing. They really are trying to elevate themselves out of the gaming space, and it just sucks when a deal like this, which you know was going to be great for gaming, I think. I mean, because nobody complained when Disney bought everything. Disney bought what? Hulu, ESPN. The list goes on. Marvel, Star Wars. I mean, what the hell is that? They own pretty much the whole 21st century entertainment suite, right? And no one has said a word. Microsoft wants to own Activision. Oh my goodness, the integrity of the gaming space. That's just Sony fucking lying. They're lying so they stay there. Because if you ask any average Joe who believes in console wars, which aren't a real thing by the way, but if you believe in them and you ask an average Joe, they'll say, again, sorry about this. I'll be right back. All right, yeah, and I don't remember where I was again, but I was saying that both of these companies need they both work in the same sphere, and it's unacceptable that they're like backbiting each other like this. Specifically, Sony, for I mean, Microsoft is not innocent in any sense of the word. Uh, but man, the fact that it had to come all the way to court because they simply didn't want Microsoft to own Activision for no other reason but that, and here we are in court. So Pete Hines, Bethesda's head of global publishing, appeared. Everybody knows him from Bethesda. He was on the stand, and the FTC questioned him about Xbox exclusives. Uh, a core part of the FTC's argument is that since Microsoft previously acquired Bethesda, that led to games being locked to Xbox, so Microsoft could repeat this behavior with Activision Blizzard, right? Uh, yeah, I mean, you may remember when Xbox bought Bethesda. It turns out the reason they bought Bethesda was because Starfield was going to be a PlayStation exclusive. And they were like, well, that's bullshit. People should be able to play that game on any console. So they bought Bethesda. And now Starfield is for PC and Xbox. Uh, and it's messed up, man. There's a whole bunch of arguments, whole bunch of different, the judges are sitting there. Oh, this is for me again. Give me a second. Yeah, so that's why I'm back. But that's why Starfield is now, I mean, by Bethesda even owns them now. Man. Hines also went on to say that Starfield wouldn't be coming out on September if it was also a PlayStation game. They wouldn't be putting a game out in 9 weeks if they were supporting an additional platform, he says in his opinion. So, yeah, I mean, a whole bunch of stuff is coming out of this this lawsuit. Stuff that, you know, we couldn't have possibly known going into it, but it is definitely coming out. And like one of the Microsoft execs says, they were willing to spend $3 billion to spin Sony out of business, end quotes, because the way they've been behaving. And this was back in 2019. He said this, and they were. I mean, it's really crazy. It's really crazy. There's just so much going on. Stuff. But yeah, that's just my opinions on what's been happening. And I'm glad that I was validated in a sense that Sony has just been using its considerable influence in the industry to stymie this deal at all fronts. Even when behind closed doors, the president said that, while I wish it wouldn't happen, it's all good. It was not all good, you know. And I do think that's messed up. I think if both of these companies they're, I know they're out to make money, and with that comes a whole bunch of shady shit, unfortunately. But at the end of the day, they do bring like light and joy to so many millions of people, and you would hope that their better graces would prevail. But alas, here we are. Like even the lawyer was for Microsoft was saying how her father's 76 and he loves Diablo 4. It's on every platform. You know what I mean? So why would they go about taking that away from other people? You know, and it's just it's tough. It's tough to be a gaming fan as an adult. As a kid, you don't know anything, right? Like as a kid, you're just like, yeah, man, whatever is fun is fun. And you get older, and if you pay attention, because you could get older and not pay attention, but if you get older and pay attention, it's just like, man, it's so hard to be a fan of anything. Hell, it's hard to be a fan of wearing clothes, slave labor and shit. It's just hard to be. I should say that should be the end of it, and it sucks as a fan because you want to support because you feel like you owe these companies because they changed in many cases changed people's lives. Game developers and graphic designers, things like that, grow up because with a love for these fields because of video games as a young age. You ask any game developer, for the most part, they say, well, I played games as a kid and I just loved it. And you could see it. You can hear it in their voices that they really did love it and that they wanted to give that love back. And the only way they knew how was to learn it and do it. And to know that in spite of all of that the happiness that video games bring, it's still like a capitalistic hellscape behind closed doors. That shit is heartbreaking to me because I love video games. My whole channel almost is video games only. We talk about movies and books sometimes, but for the most part, it's video games, and it really is sad to know that stuff like this is going on. Anyway, share your comments with me down below about your opinions on Sony and Microsoft if you want. Hit the like for me, hit the subscribe, hit the bell if you want to be notified for when I make videos. It's usually not this long of a break in between them, but alas, I've been working. So we'll see you next time, and thank you as always for watching. See ya.